Well, welcome in everybody to the Just Sayin Podcast here. Jake Osteen, Sutton Smith. I maybe look like this because this is how Alabama made me feel the last like 24 hours. But we'll get to it. We'll get to everything. Welcome to week 3 of the college football season. Super excited to get this season or this week going. There's a lot of good games on the schedule this week. It's a very underrated week. I know just listening to people around the country. A lot of people don't like the schedule that we have this week, but I think there's plenty of interesting games. So we'll start off the show breaking those down. We'll come back with our second segment of the Uh-Oh segment. We'll kind of look back at week 2. We've got 5 teams for you there. And then also, let's see if we can continue our hot streak on the best bets section of the show. I've got 3 games. Jake's got 3 games. I've got 3 players. Jake, do you have players or just games?
I've got 3 players as well. We got 12 bets.
Okay, so we got 12 best bets coming out. Obviously, each person has one lock of the week of their 6. But let's start with Alabama. Obviously, 32-point favorite heading into South Florida. Going to play at South Florida. Kind of a weird home-and-home series that was scheduled back in the mid-2010s. Back when USF had Clinton Flowers. They were pretty good under Charlie Strong, so I get why they scheduled it back then, but now it just looks really bad. Obviously, USF 1-11 last year under a new head coach and Alex Golesh. They're not a good football team. Their quarterback is barely over the 50% completion percentage mark. He is a dual threat runner. He's their leading rusher. Dwame Brown, I think is his name. He's their leading rusher, obviously leading passer. But Alex Golesh, the former offensive coordinator at Tennessee, who absolutely blew off Alabama last year. Wow, that sounded terrible. I didn't mean for it to sound like that. He destroyed Alabama last year with Jalen Hyatt had 5 touchdowns, and obviously they had added 2 on the ground. But he's the head coach at USF, so hopefully he can get things turned in the right direction there, just not this Saturday. It's supposed to be bad weather there this Saturday, so I don't know if I might change my pick because apparently they're still having remnants of the hurricane. So don't really know how it's going to look throwing the ball this Saturday, but regardless,
speaking of the thrower of the football,
guess who's Alabama's sending out at quarterback? That's right, Tyler Buchner is more than likely going to get the start this Saturday against USF.
Tell me how you feel about that.
Well, I was about to say, as you can see, I'm not really too high of a proponent of Tyler Buchner. I don't think he doesn't have a high ceiling. Now I will say his floor is a lot higher than most people's floor. But his ceiling, he has like no ceiling. So basically what I mean by saying that is I think he's pretty smart with the football, but he's not uber talented. He's not the most talented thrower. He can make some necessary throws, but basically he's not going to go out and win you a game, and he's not going to go out and lose you a game. That's kind of how I feel about Tyler Buchner. And obviously in this day and age in college football, you need a winner at the quarterback position. But hey, he could prove me wrong. He has been playing at Notre Dame. He has been playing with the amount of talent that Alabama has. So let's see what happens. Obviously, I think he's going to do a fine job on Saturday just because it's USF, which kind of puts him in line for the start against Ole Miss next Saturday here in Tuscaloosa, which that'll be definitely a very interesting matchup because you guys know how high I am on Ole Miss. I know you, Jake, So I'm interested to see how the offense functions. I'm interested to see what Jalen Milroe's role is going to be on this team because I think he's just too talented to keep on the sideline. Like, will they have some plays where he comes in and maybe does some zone reads or some RPO reads? I'd love to see that. I'd love to. If he's not going to be the starting quarterback, I'd at least hope to see that. And then to ask your question, what if Buchner does bad on Saturday, or what if he does bad next Saturday? I'm sure we'll get to that down the line, but right now, I don't really know if there's a shot we see if Buchner starts on Saturday. I don't know if there's a shot we see Milroe as a starting quarterback the rest of the season. Because I say that because from everything I've heard, it sounds like Tommy Rees is not comfortable with calling plays that are suited to Milroe's strengths, I guess you could say. So if Buchner does bad, do we see Ty Simpson? And if he does bad, do we see Dylan Lonergan? I'm definitely, like I've told Jake, I'm very optimistic about this team. I think this team is going to be just fine. Only lost 1 game to one of the best teams in the country. In my opinion, the best team in the country right now in Texas. I think we're going to be just fine. But it definitely doesn't look good when you still have quarterback questions heading into week 3 against USF. That is kind of uncharted territory as an Alabama fan, besides 2015. So, but what happened in 2015? We turned around and won a national championship game after finding out who our quarterback was. So it's been done before. I'm not as worried as I think some Alabama fans are, but I just think we need to find our identity running the football. We need to establish the run game, and we need to stick with it. And that's what I have been pissed off about the first 2 weeks. I think we've got way too pass centric. I think we need to just stop trying to throw the ball as much and just run the ball. Obviously, I thought defense played good against Texas besides the fourth quarter. I think they'll be fine this week. They can stop the run. Passing and getting after the quarterback is still where I am concerned. So what's your take on this?
I mean, South Florida sucks. Y'all are going to win by at least 28. I'm not exactly looking to see how Tyler Buchner does because it's South Florida. He's going to perform well. Wide receivers are going to be wide open. The only concern is what if that doesn't happen? I don't think you can take anything good away from it, but I think you can certainly take something bad away from it. Unless if there's heavy rain, that is what it is. Just escape with a win.
Yeah.
You still want to look good. I'm interested to see, you mentioned how you're interested to see what role Jalen Milroe plays. Can Alabama pull off kind of what Auburn's doing right now? And I know Auburn sucks. I know their quarterbacks are way worse. Peyton Thorne is the worst in the SEC. But they have a split quarterback, not battle, but system where Peyton Thorne drives him down the field. Robbie Ashford typically comes in goal line where he can run the ball more. He's more effective as a runner. Can Bama do that in your opinion? Does Tyler Buchner potentially lead them down the field? Jalen Milroe comes in, at
See,
the 20.
I don't think Alabama would do something like that because I value a passer inside the red zone a lot. Yes, I value a runner, but Tyler Buchner is a good runner. He's been able. If you go back and watch, you need to go back and watch some Notre Dame tape. I will say he's a pretty good runner with the football. He's not a plus runner. Obviously, right now we're comparing him to Jalen Milroe, the best running quarterback in college football.
Yeah.
He is not that, obviously, nowhere near that. But he is a plus runner. I would say he is, and I think Ty Simpson is too. I really think the only 2 quarterbacks on our roster that can't run the football to save their lives are both of our freshmen, who are both just. Lonergan can, but Eli Holstein obviously won't touch the field in a Bama uniform probably ever. He's just a statue. He's basically Tom Brady. But Buchner can do it. Buchner was, if you go back and watch the South Carolina game from Notre Dame last year, their bowl game, he played very well. He looked good with passing the ball, but rushing the ball as well. He can do the zone read game a little bit too. And I think because Milroe's out there, or when Milroe's out there, that defensive end on the end is always going to be looking for that QB run. They might not look for it as much with Buchner, so it may actually slip a little bit more for Alabama. So I think if we're going to see a Milroe, package or whatever, it'll come just kind of at any point on the field, just to kind of throw the other defense off. I don't necessarily think it'll be situationally scripted. Now, kind of back to your thing about Auburn, I'll just touch on this really quickly. Peyton Thorne is not an awful runner. He's not great with the ball. But Robbie Ashford definitely brings you something different for Auburn. And obviously Peyton Thorne's not great throwing the ball either. So goal line and red zone for them, does it truly matter who's out there throwing the ball? Yeah. Both of them are going to suck anyway. You might as well just run the ball. So that's kind of how I view it with Auburn. But yeah, what are we saying in week 1? Both Alabama and Georgia didn't play great teams in week 1, right? We both said we're not really going to buy into this. And I don't think no matter how Buchner plays good or bad, especially if there's heavy rainfall, I'm really not going to buy into it too much until they play Ole Miss, and he most likely gets a start against Ole Miss. So that's kind of how I'm viewing this week's game. It's really just a scrimmage game pretty much next week.
And leading that into talking about Georgia, South Carolina, I'm the exact same way where first 2 weeks we didn't play anyone. We played JV teams. So all judgment was reserved. Playbook was super stale, very vanilla. You didn't put anything on tape for South Carolina to see. And don't get me wrong, South Carolina is not this national championship contender, but they have SEC athletes on their roster. They've got some 5 stars. Spencer Rattler he's arguably the best quarterback we'll face this year. In my opinion, he is. And they got a legit wide receiver in Xavier Leggett, and a decent running back, a decent tight end, in Trey Knox. So, I mean, the team's a lot better than the teams we were facing, obviously. So I'm saving my judgment for this weekend. I don't care how poorly we performed in the first quarter of these past two games. If we come out and we put up 21, I'm taking a lot from that, and I have a lot of faith. And so, I mean, this week I'm really interested to see how our O-line performs, and also our D-line. I'm really looking in the trenches for this game. There's a lot going on at receiver. I want to see what happens out there. But our O-line hasn't performed great. It was a lot better last week than week one, but still, I mean, I just want to see us get some push and be able to run the ball, especially with that banged up running back room we have. And then D-line, we saw how poorly South Carolina's O-line played against North Carolina, gave up 9 sacks. And so if we can just get half of that, I think we won the day. So looking for explosives on the offense and looking for havoc plays from the defense.
So obviously, we kind of mentioned Georgia's struggles kind of out of the gate so far on offense to start the year. And like we both have said, I don't really buy into it because obviously this is not what Georgia's going to look like towards the end of the year. This isn't what Alabama's going to look like towards the end of the year. Now, I think it's a lot different for both scenarios because Alabama truly could go either way. They could look much better towards the end of the year, or they could look much worse towards the end of the year. Obviously, I don't think it'll be much worse because I've got faith in Saban and this coaching staff. But at Georgia, we all know it's going to look better towards the end of the year, right? Now, I will say this line is a very fat line, 27.5. I know they're hosting South Carolina. That is a fat line. And I think a lot of that has to do, obviously, with them winning the national championship last year, being the number one team in the country on the AP poll. Obviously, that has a lot to do with it. But and I haven't put this game on my best bets, but I'm kind of leaning towards South Carolina here, just because Spencer Rattler has been in these big games before, right? He not necessarily has he performed well in these big games, but he's been there. And I am not predicting an upset. I do not think South Carolina is going to win. Georgia is going to win this football game. It possibly could get ugly at this point. I mean, South Carolina's ability to run the football has been non-existent to start the year, especially we thought they would against North Carolina. Obviously North Carolina's defensive front looked a lot better, but that's very troublesome for me because I think in order for Spencer Rattler to have success, they've got to be able to run the football, and they're not going to be able to run the football against Georgia. But I think that Spencer Rattler can make a good enough plays, and I think South Carolina's defense can be good enough to limit Georgia offensively. So probably, I mean, my score prediction for this game is like 35-10. I think Georgia wins like 35-10, 38-10, something like that. 38-13. So I think South Carolina will cover this game, but I don't think Georgia's going to get a scare necessarily. And I think we'll be talking about Georgia the same way we're talking about them right now. They came out a little shaky on offense, but they go into the second half. Maybe even a close game at halftime. Maybe Georgia's only up by like 7 at halftime. But they go in, make the necessary adjustments at halftime, come out and fire on all cylinders, and they win this football game pretty bad.
I think you're actually kind of exactly on the right path with our first quarter struggles. I mean, a lot of teams have last year and this year. I mean, in the first quarter, they just try to drown out the clock, make halftime as close as it can. It was even the same way back in 2020 when we played Arkansas the first game, and I think it was 6-3, maybe 10-3, and then we won 33-10, I think. So I think it's going to be exactly like that. I think we're only winning at half, probably by 10. I think it's going to be a competitive first half, and maybe we would go in 17-7. But I mean, my final score prediction is going to be 45-10. So I just think, the one thing I'm going to be looking at outside of O-line and D-line is Spencer Rattler thrown to his wide receivers, because Xavier Leggett, he's a go up and get it guy. And our DBs have struggled in the past and have struggled this year, even though we haven't faced many vertical teams, but have struggled with 50-50 balls and going up and getting it. And, they draw a lot of PIs. So I'm looking forward to seeing Dalen Everett and Kamari Laster trying to guard the wide receivers on those 50-50 balls. We'll see how it goes. But I mean, like I said, I don't even think we're going to struggle in the first half. I think South Carolina is going to play well, going to plan well. But at the end of the day, talent's just going to win over, and we win by 35.
Yeah, I don't hate that either. And we didn't really touch the Alabama line either, but I don't think I want to, just because obviously weather's just we don't really know what's going to happen there. Obviously the line at 32, and then Georgia's line 27.5. But let's get to my most exciting game of the day. I am very looking forward to watching LSU and Mississippi State go at it.
I did not think that was the game
you were going to. Oh, what game were you talking about?
No.
We'll get to it. This is my most exciting game of the day mainly because I want to see how this new Mississippi State offense does against a favorable, like a solid defense. Now I will say this: if this is Mississippi State's offense of the last 3 years with Mike Leach, I think Mississippi State wins this game just because of how bad the LSU secondary has been. But we've seen that to start this year, Mississippi State wants to try something different on offense this year. They are a run-heavy team. For instance, we talked about this, I think, on Tuesday. Will Rogers has thrown 42 passes this season in total in 2 games. Last year, he threw 42 in 7 games.
He has
42 passes in each game for 7 games out of the 13 that they played last year.
I believe he has 20 career games where he has more pass attempts than that. Yeah, which is crazy.
Absolutely insane. Obviously, the air raid, but we're not used to seeing air raid in college football. Doesn't happen much anymore. It's kind of non-existent now. Really, the only team that still runs it is Western Kentucky, which I think that might be a game that you might be really good to watch this weekend. But Mississippi State's trying to do something different on offense. I don't necessarily think it's going to work out great, here this upcoming weekend. I think this will be a defensive struggle. I really think this is going to be a game where you're going to want to hit the under and the over-under. Probably like a 21-17 final. Right now, the line is leaned at LSU at 9.5. I think that is a fat line. I'm going to go with Mississippi State to cover, LSU to win, Mississippi State to cover. It's in Starkville. SEC Nation crew is going to be there. It's going to be a very hostile environment with the Cowbells going, and especially if Mississippi State can stay in the game. Those Cowbells are so annoying. The longer they go, the more annoying they get. I don't know if that works as an advantage to LSU being pissed off, or they're just whatever. But it is. I've been to Mississippi State. I'll be going again this year. It's a great atmosphere. It's a very underrated atmosphere because they don't have as many fans, but those Cowbells are loud. But I'm really just looking to see if Zach Arnett will open up this passing game, because Will Rogers hasn't really been given. I mean, he's the leading passer in SEC history through 3 years. This is his 4th season, and it's crazy that this guy's still playing quarterback in college. So I'm really interested to see if Arnett will just kind of let Rogers go out there and sling it, because I think that would lead them to a victory. If he threw the ball more than 40 times in this game, I think Mississippi State wins this game. But then again, if Mississippi State has a lot of success running the ball, I think they're going to win this game. So if they just have success in either department and on offense, I think they win. But sadly, I don't think that they're going to have enough success. I think LSU pulls it out. Obviously, the experience and the talent of LSU probably prevails in this game.
Yeah, I don't think this game is going to be necessarily close. I think it will be at half. You mentioned the Cowbells, mentioned their home field advantage. Mississippi State's field isn't necessarily a tough place to play, but with the Cowbells, it makes it annoying. I know when we went there last year, we were only winning by 5 at half, I think. They returned a punt return for a touchdown right before the end. And I believe it was 17-12 going into the half, but then we won by 30 or so. So I think it's going to resemble that game where first half is going to be really close, kind of defensive battle. No one has 20 points. But I think, similar to Georgia, South Carolina, I think LSU's talent is just going to prevail. I don't think this Mississippi State team is good. I think they're a bottom 3 team in the SEC, potentially bottom 2, including Vandy. So I'm interested to see how it goes. Mississippi State barely etched out a win against Arizona. They had to go to OT, and I believe they had 4 turnovers in that game. So that's one of those things you can look at, say, what if it didn't happen, because turnovers are kind of wishy-washy. But you got to include them either way. So
you're right.
LSU's a much, 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 much better team than Arizona.
So right now, let me ask you a question. Right now, so obviously Vandy's your worst team in the SEC, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. If you put Mississippi State on a neutral field against Florida, who do you have winning?
It's really close. Those are the bottom 3 teams of the SEC.
Okay.
That's why it's really close.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think Mississippi State, Missouri would be a close game.
Yeah.
I think Mississippi State, Kentucky would be a little bit of a close game right now. Auburn, Mississippi State would be a close game. I mean, I think those are your candidates.
Yeah.
But I really truly don't know. I mean, obviously Vanderbilt's the worst team, but I think we need to see more from each team before we decide.
Yeah,
who's
no,
the second
100%.
So-
Right now, I would definitely take Mizzou over Mississippi State. I think it would be a close game. So like Mizzou, Auburn, Kentucky. I think Kentucky would definitely win, but that would probably be a closer game. Florida is the only one I look at, and I would have to think about it. You know, it's probably I would lean towards Florida. Don't really know why. I just think they have a couple of dudes, and Mississippi State.
I mean, they
doesn't
got
have-
more talent than Mississippi State does, so it's not a terrible pick.
Mississippi
but
State has no talent.
What has Florida State done with that talent? Or Florida, excuse me, Florida.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, they don't have great talent. They're
But
not
they
a
have
great.
more. They have more.
They do have more. They do have more. So at the end of the day, I have LSU probably winning. Unless they're out the score.
Do you have them covering?
Yeah. Unless they're out the score. 35.
By the way, guys, when we give out these lines, when we say we have them covering on our week 3 previews, we would not bet these. These are not our best bets. This is just what our kind of feel. So
let's go 31-17.
okay. I don't hate that either.
Yeah.
I'd say 21-17.
So the game that I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going a different way. And this is the one that everyone looks at.
I think I know.
Florida, Tennessee.
Oh, okay. So you didn't go the direction I thought you go. Okay.
We both went different ways. Florida,
okay.
Tennessee. You know, I hate Tennessee. I hate Florida. I hate both of them, of course, as a Georgia fan. Tennessee, you know, they didn't give us a scare last year, but going into the game, didn't really know which way it was going to go. This year, they're a completely different team. Joe Milton sucks. Most overrated player in college football. Wide receiver core, not that great. Don't know why. Running backs are elite. I will say that. They probably have a top 5 running back room just because of Jabari Small and Jalen Wright. And the defense, they're not much improved. They're improved on the defensive end side of things, but they're playing at Gainesville. And Gainesville, again, kind of like Mississippi State, not the toughest place to play, but you know, can be sneaky loud, especially it's a night game against Tennessee. I mean, there's a long hatred for them there. So I told my brother Nick I would do this. I'm flipping a frisbee disc, to see which way this game is going to go. Because for me, they can go either way. You know, Tennessee could win by 20. Tennessee could win by 5. Florida could win by 7. Florida couldn't blow them out, but it can go through those 3 different ways. So this is Florida side. This is Tennessee side. Let's see. Tennessee's winning. I
think that frisbee's I think that frisbee knows what it's doing.
Look, I don't want to make the Florida fans. I don't want to make my family too mad. So let's go Tennessee to win, just because the disc said so, and then we'll go Florida to cover.
Well,
I think it's 7.
It's 6.5.
6.5. Oh,
Here's
Florida to cover.
Here's a stat that I know your family and Nick would really appreciate. In the last 52 seasons, Tennessee has won 3 games in Gainesville. Now, obviously, these programs are at completely different spots than they have been in the past few years, meaning that Florida is pretty kind of down. Tennessee's more up. So first off, I'll say I'm going to go alert. I just got a confirmation. Tyler Buckner is starting tomorrow's game. It is confirmed. But anyway, I'm going to go Tennessee to win. I'm going to go Tennessee to cover. I'm looking at the stats right here. Ricky Pearsall, I know we talked about it a lot. He's a dog.
I told you he was.
For 215 and a tutty. Ricky Pearsall is a dog.
I told you he was.
This running back, the running backs on both teams are 2 of the most underrated running back rooms in college football. You talked about Small and Wright, and then obviously I mentioned Montrell Johnson Jr. and Trevor Etienne to start the year as kind of my underrated players going into this year. But I mean, we're looking at Graham Mertz's stats. He's thrown now I'll give it to him. 16 incompletions all season on 61 pass attempts. That's pretty good. That's pretty dang good. But in no way, shape, or form is Graham Mertz ever throwing 61 passes for a team that I coach. So that shows you that there may be a flaw in offensive philosophy. I mean, the dude's got better numbers than Joe Milton, which wouldn't be surprising to you, especially since Florida's played Utah too. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, I I wouldn't say I hope Milton finds his stride because he's a Tennessee player. I'm definitely pulling for Florida in this game because I hate Tennessee. But I just wonder if Milton can ever find it because he's got all the tools. He just has to find it.
He doesn't have accuracy. He doesn't have it.
I'm looking at tickets are as low as $95 for this game. That would be a great game to go to for kind of
what I'm pulling for in this game is an ugly game. I want to see both teams lose.
I think it will be. I think it will be an ugly game. I think it'll be like 28 to like 17 Tennessee.
I will say this. I don't think Florida's defensive coordinator is awful. I don't know his name, but they got rid of what's his face?
He's a coach at Alabama now.
He used to be at Georgia. He was awful.
Todd Grantham?
Yeah.
Well, he's been gone for 2 years.
Oh, was he?
He was at Alabama. He's an analyst at Alabama right now.
I think they promoted the co-defensive coordinator from last year to head defensive coordinator. Anyway, I think their defense
played bad.
I think their defense is decent. They played well against Utah. I know they were playing against a backup QB, but Utah is a top 15 team, and they were playing on the road. But they played well against them. I'm looking to see how they shut down Joe Milton. I think they should put a lot of pressure on him and make him throw it short and intermediate.
Yeah.
Not necessarily give him 7 free yards every time, but make him make decisions because
it's tough to say stack the box against Tennessee, especially the way how fast the receivers are. And we know, obviously, I think Drew McCoy's a little overrated, but he's fine. Like he can make separation and make catches. Squirrel White, I think he's a great receiver. So these guys can get separation. But when I'm looking at their so far to start the season, they're only averaging 220 yards passing a game. They're out gaining and rushing by 30 yards, 37 yards. If you would have told me that to start the year that Tennessee would have more yards rushing per game than they do passing, I would have been very surprised. But on the flip side, Florida is throwing for 110 more yards than they're running the ball this year per game. That is very surprising because you would think coming in the year their strength is going to be running the ball. That just shows you their O-line is trash. So we'll see if they get any better.
Or it shows you Graham Mertz the GOAT.
Yeah, we definitely both know that is the biggest lie I've heard in this show so far.
The second worst QB in the SEC.
Yeah, I'm definitely pulling for Florida. Don't think it's going to happen, though.
Third game you want to talk about next?
So this is the game I thought you were going to go to. I thought you were going to hit Kansas State versus Missouri. Another great another great game at 12 o'clock. Obviously, a home and home from last season, where Kansas State last year just obliterated Missouri at home. I think it was like 42-13. And a key way of them doing that was them completely taking Luther Burden out of that game. I think Luther Burden had 2 catches for like 15 yards in that game. So they really need to do that again this year. Make Luther Burden, get him double covered, make Brady Cook throw the ball to other places, make Missouri run the ball. Obviously, both of us think very highly of Brady Cook, but I'm very high on Will Howard. I think he's a great quarterback. I got to watch him play last year in person in the Sugar Bowl. Very cool, calm, and collected guys. I mean, like the perfect prototype quarterback when you're looking at his size and his arm and everything. He doesn't have many great players to throw the ball to. I'll be quite honest with you. I'd like to see him, like if he was on an Alabama, how good would he be? I think he'd be a lot better than he could be at Kansas State. But, this line is at 5. I think Kansas State's obviously lost a lot of players, got a better offense, I think, than Missouri does. But Missouri's defense is the key in this game. Can they stop Will Howard in this offense? They've only been really allowing less than 200 yards passing this season. No, they haven't played great competition. But the key for Kansas State is to be able to run the ball. If they can't do that, then Missouri's going to win this game. But I think they're going to be able to. The line is 5 towards Kansas State. I've got Kansas State winning and covering this game.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. What's the line on it again?
5.
I mean, that's close. I'm going to go Missouri to win, Missouri to cover.
Wow.
I don't know why last week was so close. I forget who Missouri played. I think, it was Middle Tennessee. And they only won by 4. Super close game, but when I look at this Missouri team, they're pretty good. And they played Georgia. They played Georgia super well last year. I mean, they have a good defense. You might be surprised, but they have 2 of the top DBs in the SEC in Rakestraw I forget their other corner's name, but they're really good.
Rakestraw is really good.
Yeah, and then I forget the other one, but they're potential first-round picks. Probably not, but they might be. And then also a top linebacker in the SEC, Tyron Hopper, who used to go to Florida. He was really good at Florida, transferred to Missouri, did extremely well against us last year. And then their offense is good. I mean, I know they lost Dominic Lovett, but Luther Burden, former 5-star, former number 1 wide receiver, thought he was going to come to Georgia and ends up staying home in Missouri. Cody Schrader's a really reliable running back. And of course, Brady Cook. I think if Brady Cook wasn't on Missouri, he'd be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC, top 7 at least. So when I look at this team, I just don't know how they struggle, because obviously they're not going to light up the stat sheet. They're not going to go 12-0, threaten to make the playoff. But, when I look at this team, they're 8-4, and they just they haven't played like that. That's not to say they can't. So I think they get up for this game. Tickets as low as $26. So I don't think their fans are going to get up for this game. Noon kickoff. But, I'm excited to see how they play. And can they hold Kansas State? Because like you said, Kansas State doesn't really have any weapons. Not Will Howard. Yeah. Is that his first?
Yeah.
Will?
Yeah.
Shout out to Will. But Will Howard, good quarterback, just doesn't have any weapons around him.
Hey, our Will Howard is a fan of the best bet segment. So stay tuned for the last best bet.
He should not be a fan of the best bet section. No one ever should.
Hey, they should last week. Maybe they'll do it again this week. But yeah, I don't know if fans getting up in Columbia, Missouri has ever been a sentence or phrase said before.
Hey, they did it
for a football game, especially for a football game. They got a good basketball team, but especially for a football game. Now I know you wanted to touch on your Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, so go ahead and hit on that for us.
Yeah, shout out to my friend Connor who goes there. ESPN gives them a 2.9% chance to win, and I give them probably about a 4% chance to win. I don't think they do. I don't think they have a shot to win. But tickets as low as $21 right now for Ohio State. Go buy some tickets. But line right now is 31. That is one of my best bets because I think Western Kentucky is a good team. They have let's throw up 7. Top 7 quarterback in Austin Reed. He's 56 for 83, 589 yards with 6 touchdowns so far. And their top receiver has 134 yards. So that just goes to show he shares the ball, passes it around, distributes it really well. Good thrower of the football. Whereas Ohio State, don't know.
Is Austin Reed going to be the best quarterback on the field on Saturday?
I think without a doubt. I think
really
not the most talented. Don't get me wrong. He still goes to Western Kentucky, but without a doubt, the best quarterback on the field.
Wow.
And granted,
okay,
this might come to bite me in the butt. They might win by 40.
McCour's going to go off now.
I have Western Kentucky covering 31. And I just don't think Ohio State looks that great this year. I think fans aren't really going to get up for Western Kentucky. The team might not really get up for Western Kentucky, but they're a decent little team. If
they are,
if Georgia was playing them, I'd be scared to see how they do on offense. So again, not really a chance for an upset for me, but I'm going to go Ohio State 38, Western Kentucky 24.
I'll second that motion. I definitely think Western Kentucky is gonna cover the spread here. If you played college football fantasy, I think Austin Reed would probably be my first draft pick.
Drafted him last year.
Because he's going to throw the ball 60 times a game. And it's not like they play anyone good typically, maybe besides Ohio State. So he's going to fill that stat sheet up. I don't know if he'll be the best quarterback on the field. I have a tendency to think McCord is going to figure it out at some point, whether that's tomorrow or down the road. But I'm also going to be interested to watch this game. I want to see if Ohio State can get Marvin Harrison more involved. Marvin Harrison Jr., excuse me. I mean, he has not shown up to start this year.
Not last week. Last week he did. Who
did they play?
Oh yeah, but he had.
Like in a semi big. I wouldn't even say this is semi, but he didn't even show up against Indiana.
That's fair. Last week he had 7 receptions, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he's definitely a factor.
He was a factor, yeah, but really show up against a somewhat decent opponent. So
I get
I'm not exactly. I think obviously, what time do they kick off? Is it a 12:00 kick Eastern?
4:00.
It's a 4:00 Eastern kick. Okay, I definitely won't be watching this game because Alabama and Georgia will both be on, but I'll be paying attention to it on my phone.
Yeah.
What's the last one? You wanted to hit one more, I think, before we went on
Penn
to
State, Illinois.
Okay, yeah.
This might. I can't. outside of Florida, Tennessee, this might be a potential upset of the week. I'm huge on Penn State. I think Penn State's going to win. I don't think they're going to win. I think they're going to make it to the playoff.
Okay.
Probably beat Ohio State on the way. But I mean, Illinois is coming off a loss to Kansas, and ESPN gives them a 13.5% chance to win. You might recognize the name Luke Altmaier back there at QB, former Ole Miss Rebel. He also leads the team in rushing yards. 22 carries for 139 yards with 2 touchdowns. Ultimately, I think Penn State's just too much to handle. Drew Aller, great quarterback in my opinion. Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, obviously studs. And Lambert Smith has been their wide receiver who has shown up, has almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns through 2 games. So he might be their secret weapon. So I'm going to go Penn State to cover here. It's 14.5. I think they win by 17, but this might be another game we were talking about being close at halftime.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Penn State's going to cover. And I don't know if you remember on Saturday when we were talking to a friend of the show, Josh Pate, at the quad here in Tuscaloosa. But he said if Illinois would have knocked off Kansas, I think the night before, I think they were playing, he probably would be in Illinois for this game. So like he said, I think that was a big deal that Kansas ended up pulling the win out there. Obviously, I think Luke Altmaier is a fine quarterback.
Yeah, not great, not bad.
Yeah, he's good for Illinois standards. Obviously Illinois got a really good defense. Playing in maybe not really good, but better than most would think. So I think Penn State's going to win this game. It's on the road. I get that. It's really Drew Aller's first road test as a starting quarterback, but I think they take care of business and win by 21. So I'll go Penn State to cover.
Just wanted to echo. Shout out to Josh Pate, friend of the show.
Hey, might be joining us in the offseason. So y'all stay tuned. We'll see. But
that's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, let's start off. Let's get to our next segment. Week 2 of the segment. Okay. I hate to do this, but we're gonna start off right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Alabama has made it onto the segment. And not necessarily are they in the position that the 4 other teams that are on this segment that we're going to talk about are in. Mainly it is because we still have no idea what the end of the season is going to look like for us at quarterback. I mean, obviously just confirmed through a few of my sources that shall not be named that Tyler Buchner is indeed going to be starting on Saturday. Has been taking reps with the ones all day yesterday. We'll be doing that again through the walkthrough today. That really, as an Alabama fan, gives me cause of concern. The offense hasn't been exactly what we expected it to be. The defense broke down in the 4th quarter last week. We just need to see more consistency from this team. They've got all the tools to go out and win the national championship, but they haven't been consistent. It's early on, but I think that still calls for them to be on the segment here in week 2. So that's all I'll say on that. Who's your first team that you're going to talk about on the
Finally, I can talk about this in a concrete way. My most overrated team of college football the last 5 years, Texas A&M. Don't know what people saw. Well, I understand what people saw in them. Pretty good defense, good quarterback, good number 1 receiver, not much of a running game. But I mean, my thing was just Jimbo. Jimbo's not a good coach. He won a natty back in 2013, but that does not make him a good coach anymore. Dude sucks. I hate A&M just because of him. And I don't understand why people continuously put them in their preseason top 25 when they go 5-7 the year before. I mentioned this on one of the shows, the only team that could do that outside of the Blue Bloods, but the Blue Bloods don't lose. So they're obviously not one of us. A&M, not good. Finally showed up against Miami. Connor Wegman, like I said, great quarterback, 75% completion percentage, 572 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Outside of him, they have Evan Stewart, who's amazing, 5-star receiver, 250 for 2 touchdowns.
They've got some more pieces on that offense too.
But outside of that, rushing, they average 4 yards a carry, not good. Probably means their O-line isn't good. Other wide receivers are decent. They have Anais Smith, another guy, Thomas. But the reason they're on the list for me, that defense, because that was where they were going to carry the team pretty much. last year they were, I think, a top 25 team, top 25 defense. So that just goes to show you how ugly the offense was last year. But last week against Miami, and like I said, no doubt in my mind, Miami would have been ranked as a top 25 team if they beat A&M. I think they're ranked 22, 21 maybe. Mm-hmm. Should not be ranked top 25. Anyway, but gave up 48 points to Miami. And I get it. Tyler Van Dyke, he's a decent QB. But, I mean, there's a reason he's been in college football for like 6 years. He's not very good.
I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a top 20 quarterback in college football.
Oh, I think he is, but I don't think that's.
Well, you just called it not good.
Yeah.
Not good / terrible is my team next. So we'll get to that in a second.
Okay, I apologize. I think he's decent. I think he's a little overrated. But should not be putting up 48 against this A&M defense. So that's why they're in my list. Could it be another 5-7 season? Yeah, it could be. I tried to tell people in 2020, tried to tell people in 2021, tried to tell people last year, tried to tell people this year, stop overrating A&M. Hasn't happened. So hopefully it starts to work now.
Well, I'm glad you got your spill up on Texas A&M. But
I need to put it out somewhere.
Here's the no quarterback I'm talking about. The Nebraska Cornhuskers have not a quarterback on their roster. Jeff Sims. When you heard the Lamar Jackson is a running back playing quarterback, that did not apply to him. He won the Heisman. Jeff Sims is nowhere close. This dude is awful. You literally put any other quarterback in college football on Nebraska, they probably are 1-1 right now. They probably win that Minnesota game. I mean, he single-handedly lost that game. And then last week, he was abysmal against Colorado. So I just wonder what they would look like if he was competent throwing the football. I mean, he has been pretty bad, or not pretty bad. He's been very bad. And I don't think that's a bad defense. I think it's a good head coach. He's going to end up turning them around. But Jeff Sims is not the answer. So really, Nebraska's not really the uh-oh. It's Jeff Sims is the uh-oh. Yeah. I thought he looked better at Georgia Tech in his first 2 years at Georgia Tech than he's looked at Nebraska so far. So maybe he made a poor decision. I don't know. But they need to be able to figure something out with him and quick, because this could get ugly.
Do you happen to know how many turnovers he has?
I think he's lost 2 fumbles and he's thrown 4 picks. Yeah.
He's so bad.
Let me check. So bad. Let me check. But it's been rough. It's been a rough year for him.
I mean, like you said, we were both huge on him. We thought he was going to be good.
He's a great athlete. I mean, he's got the tools. That's the thing.
They were one of my sleeper teams, and then just he hasn't done anything. He's
thrown 4 interceptions this year, and let's see, rushing. Can't find fumbles on here.
He has at least 2, I can tell you that.
I know he's got 1 fumble. So, I mean, he's only thrown 1 touchdown pass, and he's ran 1. So he's got 2 touchdowns to 5 or 6 turnovers.
I know their backup sucks, but you got to make a change now. Jeff Sims is not it.
So I don't know.
Anyway,
but I know you got another overrated team that was in the top 25 that's not now. Another Big Ten. Another team in Big Ten West.
Another team not in my top 25. Didn't understand the hype. Understood it more than A&M, because Wisconsin, that's my team. The uh-ohs. Got Tanner Mordecai from SMU. Used to be Oklahoma quarterback, I believe. Had all the talent in the world, just hadn't shown out. Braylon Allen, top 5 running back in college football. Defense, always good. Receivers, not really there, but who cares? So I understood it a little bit. For me, they hadn't shown anything. So I don't know why I would put them in my top 25. Anyway, so things went pretty well week 1 against Buffalo, but week 2 last week against Washington State. I know you're big on Wazoo, and I think they're a good team. I think they're borderline top 25, but they just looked atrocious against them. And the main reason I have them as an uh-oh team, Braylon Allen, 7 carries for 20 yards, 2.9 average, no touchdowns. And their backup, a little bit better, 12 carries for 50 yards, 4.2 average. He had a touchdown, but I mean, still that run game did not look good at all. They look very one-dimensional, and especially when you're making Tanner Mordecai throw the ball like that. I mean,
Tanner Mordecai should not throw 40 passes in one game for Wisconsin this year, and he did it last week. So,
25 for 40 with 277 yards and a touchdown.
And look at that QBR of 50.
Who's he throwing to? Not anyone good. And then Braylon Allen had 6 receptions for 11 yards, a 1.8 average. So that's my is the Wisconsin O-line just that bad, or is Braylon Allen, has he degressed? It's hard to believe that. So I just think this team is not very good. They just play in a weak division. They still have everything in front of them. They were never going to play for the playoff, but I mean, if they can make it to the Big Ten championship and then potentially upset one of the 3 good teams in the Big Ten, who knows?
And then we're going to end the segment with one more team. The Houston Cougars lost to Rice in double overtime, 43-41. They lost to Food, the number 1 no-no. But this is what hurts my soul, because I remember the good days of Tom Herman being at Houston and them having, De'Aaron King, when De'Aaron King was balling out in Houston. You remember how fun those Houston teams used to be?
I love De'Aaron King.
Even when Dana Holgorsen was at West Virginia, those West Virginia teams were fun to watch. But ever since Dana Holgorsen has migrated from Morgantown, West Virginia to Houston, Texas, it has been atrocious. I mean, he's been bad. The only reason Houston even got into the Big 12 this year is because of basketball. It wasn't because of football. Make no mistake about it. I thought they might even be better at the quarterback position this year with the transfer of Donovan Smith from Texas Tech, and he hasn't been bad. He went 24-42 for 260 yards, 2 tutties and an interception last week against Rice. Obviously, another thing kind of with Wisconsin, you do not want to see Donovan Smith throwing the ball 42 times in a game, especially since he's a run-first quarterback, not a throwing. I mean, he had 16 carries for 57 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game too. So, I mean, it looks like he's kind of doing it all himself on offense. So they need to find out a better offensive philosophy than what they've been throwing out there, especially to lose against Rice. JT Daniels, poverty JT Daniels.
Hey, don't throw shade on him.
Dude sucks. Anyway.
He has a ring. That's all that matters.
Well, he sucks. And Houston defense is doing no favors for that offense either. They've got to figure something out over there. I never thought that, I always thought Dana Holgorsen was a great coach, but he could be on the hot seat coming towards the middle of the season this year. I put them on the segment for sure.
When they beat UTSA, I thought they were going to be good this year because I thought UTSA was going to be really good. Turns out UTSA just isn't good. I was wrong.
Yep. Well, I think it's time, Jake. It's time to continue our hot streak on the best bets.
Got to. Let's keep above 500 average. So we've talked for all 3 of my games. We all talked about them. We talked about all of them. Number 1, I'm going with Southern plus 20 against Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe
that's
Southern...
your lock of the week.
No. Sorry. I'll give my lock. One of the locks of the week is one of my player bets.
Okay.
So I'll keep that in there.
Okay.
But yeah, Southern plus 20. I think they can keep close. I can't remember who. Southern had a decent win last week. Played pretty well. Wisconsin, like I just mentioned, they're not going up against a great team, but they struggled mightily last week. I think Southern can keep it close. Show out for Georgia.
Okay. Well, I'll go lock. I'm going to do my lock of the week. My lock of the week is a game, and I'm going to do it last of my 3 games. So we'll start off with one of my first games. Yeah. Arkansas is an 8-point favorite at home over Brigham Young University. I'm going to have Arkansas covering that spread. I know last year that was kind of a big game at the moment last year.
Yeah.
I think Arkansas won that game on the road. Maybe. I don't know. I have to look it up. But I definitely think Arkansas is going to win this game and cover at home. KJ Jefferson, what can I say? I think he's a really good quarterback. He fits Arkansas system perfectly. Rocket Sanders back again this year. Not too much talent out on the corner, out on the edge, but I think their defense has gotten a lot better, and I think BYU's gotten a lot worse, especially with the loss of Jaron Hall. So I'm going to go Arkansas to win and Arkansas to cover the 8 points.
Arkansas won by 17 last year.
Okay,
and they lost, like you said, they lost Jaron Hall and Puka Nakua, who showed out in week 1.
Good pronunciation.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Nice.
Yeah, my second best bet, going with Georgia Tech to cover against Ole Miss plus 20.
Okay.
Not for the reason that Ole Miss is bad. You're a little bit higher on them than I am, but I think they're a top probably 17 team. I think I had them at 17 this week. I think they're good. The reason I have them covering 20 is because I think Ole Miss is really just looking forward to Bama. This is one of the games, get it over with. Let's get the win and leave. I don't think anyone cares if they win by 7. Tech's improved. They have Buster Faulkner, a guy who used to be on Georgia's staff. He's now their OC. Haynes King, who used to be at A&M. They have a much improved offense, but it's just one of those games. I think Ole Miss is just trying to get out of there with a win. So let's escape it. And I got Tech to cover +20.
And like you said, I mean, now let's think of the 3 assistants that have knocked off Nick Saban. Kirby Smart, Sarkisian, and Jimbo Fisher are the 3 former head coaches or former assistant coaches for Nick Saban that are now head coaches that have beaten him. And while all of them, I'm sure, wanted to beat them, nobody of any former assistant of Saban's wants to beat Saban more than Lane Kiffin does. I mean, he talks about it every year. He basically worships Nick Saban in a satirical fashion. So I'm sure that he's been game planning for the Alabama game like Sarkisian did pretty much all summer. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I'm going to stay away from that just because I really could see it going either way. But my second game of the week, I'm going to go with the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers to win and cover over Virginia Tech. It's a 7-point spread. I like what I've seen through 2 weeks. So I'm going to go Rutgers to win and cover at home 7 points over the Virginia Tech Hokies.
Big Rutgers fan, huh?
Hey, I might be getting on the Greg Schiano train this year. I liked what I've seen so far.
And then, like I said, my last game, I got Western Kentucky +31 against Ohio.
Is this your lock of the week?
No, I mean, like I said, my lock of the week is my first player bet. Okay. If I had a game to be lock of the week, probably be this one. I just think Western Kentucky comes out hot, and Ohio State kind of struggles to stop their offense. Like I said, no shot for an upset win in my mind, but Western Kentucky keeps it close. Loses by less than 17.
Well, I hate it for all the rest of the Osteen family, but my lock of the week is Tennessee covering the 6.5 at Florida and winning outright. That's my lock of the week this week. I don't really see a scenario where Florida wins this game. I hate it for them, but Tennessee is just gonna outmatch them, and I think win by probably 14. So I'm gonna go Tennessee to win and cover in the Swamp.
I'll make sure to send Nick your number if Florida wins that game, and he can send you a.
Well, he won't be. He won't be the only person that's texting me. I mean, I had 7 or 8 people hit me up after the Bama game that I haven't talked to probably in 5 years. So that's okay.
Well, let me give you my lock of the week. Give me Drew Aller over 238.5 passing yards. I think this game is going to be a game. So I think he plays all 4 quarters. Maybe doesn't play the last 2 drives. But, I mean, like I said, he's great. He's a top 5 quarterback in college football eventually. Not right now. Okay. Not right.
I don't hate that. I like that.
He's only started 2 games. So by the end of the season, top 5 quarterback. Next year, potentially number 1 quarterback taken in the draft. So I think he's great. I think with the rising of Lambert Smith, with a wide receiver to actually throw it to. And then Dante Cephas? He's the Kent State transfer. He's going to start getting more involved in their offense. I think they start showing out against Illinois this week. Like I said, 4-quarter game, but he's going to throw for a lot.
I like that. I would also probably, if I was going to bet that one, I'd say the over. But, kind of to contrast my lock of the week, I've got Graham Mertz, 210.5 passing yards. I'm going to hit the over on that one. I'm going with kind of what I've seen their offensive philosophy so far this year has been to throw the ball. I mean, why? I have no idea. But I definitely think, Ricky Pearsall is probably going to have a really good game. Mertz will be looking for him. And that'll lead to some other guys being open. But yeah, I think they're going to be down most of the game. So I think they're going to be throwing the ball anyway. So I think over 210.5 passing yards. I think Mertz will easily get this. I'm thinking more 240, 250 for him. I don't necessarily agree with the way they've been playing offense, but I think they've kind of showed what they wanted to do through the first 2 games this year. And I think that continues this week, even with a loss. So I'm going to go Graham Mertz 210.5 over.
Respect. I wanted to mention this line because I saw it on Prize Picks. Insane line. Michael Penix, it's 349.5.
Yes, I know. I saw that.
That is never in my life would that be a best bet because that is crazy.
Well, you're going to think I'm absolutely crazy with my next one. So
that is insane for it being so high. Like I said, not one of my best bets. But just
you're going to think I'm crazy.
So my second one, I have Squirrel White over 55.5 yards. I don't, like I said, Joe Milton, most overrated player in college football, doesn't hit any short or intermediate passes, can't go through his reads, things like that. I do think he will hit 2 or 3 deep balls though, and I think at least one goes to Squirrel White, probably the fastest receiver on that team, potentially in the SEC. So I think he gets open on a straight vertical route and catches one for 65 yards or so, and that might be his only catch of the game. But somehow, some way, he's going to hit his over.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that's probably going to happen too. I'll go the over. But my crazy one, okay. Shedeur Sanders' line right now is 339.5.
Oh my gosh.
We are slamming the over, okay? And I say that because he has thrown for more than 340 in both games he's played. He threw for 500 against TCU. Why in the world would Jay Norvell come out and say what he said yesterday? You don't need to give Deion Sanders any more motivation to go out and win a game. He already has it. I mean, why he has this motivation, I have really no idea. I mean, yes, people talk trash about him, but when you go and literally talk trash about him to his face by saying he's childish that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're already a 23.5 point underdog. If I was the Vegas betting world, I would have put this line after he said that up to like 30 because Colorado is going to obliterate the Rams on Saturday night. And I think because it's personal, Deion Sanders is going to keep that watch out. Shedeur's going to stay out there, and he's going to throw for over 400 against Colorado State. So I've got Shedeur Sanders with hitting the over on passing yards.
See, that makes it
it's a fat one. It's a fat one.
It's so hard. It's because I don't think it's going to be a game. I think maybe through the first quarter, maybe potentially in the first half it is, but Colorado is going to pour it on. And I just see them running the ball after that.
See, they suck at running the ball, really. I'll be honest. Colorado sucks at running the ball, so I think they're just going to throw it.
I mean, that is fair. I like it. Let's go over. Let's just slam it.
I'm telling you, the more you think about it, the more it sounds nice.
That is because Dylan Edwards is good, but they don't have a line to run behind. So, yeah, maybe you're right.
The more you think about it, sounds good.
Hammer the over. not at Michael Penix, but hammer that one.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't touch that one because he could definitely hit the over on that like easily. Yeah. But then again, I don't know. But yeah, give me your last one.
He's thrown for over 350 in both his games. He threw for like 450 his first game. So never know. But my last one, I have a combo rusher.
And this is Trevor lock of the week, huh?
No, that was Drew Aller.
Drew Aller. Okay.
I have Trevor Etienne and Jalen Wright over 118.5. I think this game is going to be decided who runs the ball the best, with both QBs being below average. Yes, Joe Milton is below average. But Jalen Wright, probably their best running back on their roster. I think he probably goes for like 80 or 90. Then Trevor Etienne just has to make it up with like 40. And Tennessee's defense, although it's improved, it's not that great. Trevor Etienne, I think he's the number 2 back, but like I said, just has to go for 30 or 40 yards in my opinion.
I'm going to go the under on this. I think of any part of the Florida defense, I think they can stop the run. And then Tennessee, I think Montrell Johnson Jr. is going to be that main guy for Florida instead of Etienne. So I'm going to hit the under on this one. I think Etienne factors more into the passing game on Saturday than he does the running game. So I'm going to go the under on that. But I'm going to end, and this is how I just see this game playing out. I do think Mississippi State is going to value throwing the football on Saturday. And I think Will Rogers is going to hit the over on passing touchdowns of 1.5. So I think he's going to have at least 2 passing touchdowns on Saturday. I think those are the only 2 touchdowns Mississippi State scores on Saturday are his 2 passing touchdowns. So I'm going to go Will Rogers over on passing touchdowns. I think Zach Arnett realizes, okay, this LSU secondary is a liability for them, and we are going to have to throw the football to have a chance at winning this game. He's going to recognize that, and they're going to come out and throw the ball a little bit more than they have done so far this year. So, yeah, we'll hit the Will Rogers over. But I feel good about our best bets. I mean, we really only disagreed on one, which was that last player bet for you. So
I'm also going to go the over on that as well.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how we stack up this week. I hate, though, how we're kind of agreeing on everything. I kind of want to see a little bit more disparity. Maybe we'll have to.
Maybe we'll have to think about it next week. And
we'll actually have to, put some work into it next week.
I have to.
But, hey, I was surprised you went with my Rutgers pick. I didn't know how much Rutgers you've watched, so I don't know. But 7 points.
To add some more disparity, let's go. Who do they play? Virginia Tech. Let's go Virginia plus, what is it, 6.5? 7? All right, +7.
You got Virginia Tech outright?
That doesn't matter. I don't know.
Okay.
I gotta say, I have not looked at that game.
Yeah. Well, I saw it and I was like, interesting. So,
all right.
Hey, week 3 is upon us, guys. Thanks again for sticking with us throughout this whole show. I thought it was a good one, Jake. We did a good little preview section there and some good best bets. Now hopefully we keep this hot train going. But obviously remember we've got South Carolina, Georgia at 3:30 Eastern, Alabama, USF 2:30 Eastern or 3:30 Eastern. Your LSU and Kansas State kind of kicked the day off at 12, and then Tennessee and Florida at night. Those were the 5 games we previewed today, as well as the Ohio State game, but nobody really cares. But we'll get back next week with episode 10. Wow, we're almost at double-digit episodes.
That's insane.
It's flown by, and I've had a great time. So thank y'all all for listening. Join us again, hopefully next Monday, next Tuesday, for episode 10 of the Just Sayin Podcast. This is Sutton Smith with Jake Osteen. Thank you guys so much. See y'all next week.
Go Dogs.
Roll Tide.